So in South Dakota, there was a really interesting measure, Measure 22, that they were going to put up for a vote so that the citizens of South Carolina can decide on their own. It was to clean up money in politics. And I'm going to tell you exactly what was in it. You'll see for yourself. And I'll tell you which way they voted. But first, people that give money to politicians were furious. Specifically in this case, the Koch brothers. They pour a lot of money in, and it's dark money. They don't want anybody to find out who's actually paying for it and who's actually legally, now they would say, speaking to the politicians by giving them millions of dollars. I think most Americans and most of the people in South Dakota would say legally bribing the politicians. It's not illegal. That's what's crazy about it. That's why you got to change the laws to get money out of politics. Because right now, they're just funneling millions of dollars to politicians, and you can't even find out who they are. So in this case, though, they at least raised their hand and said, we're against this law, this proposed ballot measure. So, as USA Today explains, a group tied to billionaire Charles Koch has unleashed an aggressive campaign to kill a ballot measure in South Dakota that would require Koch-affiliated groups and others like them to reveal their donors' identities, part of a sustained effort by his powerful network to keep government agencies and the public from learning more about its financial backers. Now, this article was written before the election. I'll tell you which way South Dakota decided to go, and then the amazing twist after the election. So, they continue, though, before the election, initiated Measure 22, the one we're talking about, calls for public disclosure of donors who fund advocacy efforts, the creation of a state ethics commission, and public financing of political campaigns. It also limits lobbyist gifts to elected officials and lowers the amount of campaign contributions to candidates, parties, and political action committees. Now, if you're an average American, that all sounds pretty good. Do you want private people who stand to gain from the laws that are passed financing the politicians? Or do you want public financing so that they actually work for you? Do you want them to have more gifts from lobbyists or less gifts from lobbyists? These are not hard questions. Now, they did a tremendous amount of money on this election. They spent it and spent it trying to do counter-propaganda. Let me tell you what their propaganda was. They denounced the initiative as a money grab by politicians because it would give voters taxpayer-funded vouchers to help finance candidates' campaigns. But as I just explained to you, you have two choices in how campaigns get financed. They either get financed by the Koch brothers, Soros, Bloomberg, unions, multinational corporations, or they get financed by you. Which one do you prefer? Not a hard choice, because if the Koch brothers or George Soros or anyone else cuts them a check, guess who they work for? They work for those guys. If we finance their elections, that's a tiny cost to us as compared to the amount of money that they then funnel back to their donors. And we've shown you this on a federal level. The public financing at a federal level would cost a small amount of money, but in reality, they spend trillions of dollars in subsidies and giveaways in crony capitalism to the people who privately finance their elections. Okay? So anyway, the people of South Dakota are going to decide this, and I'll tell you the results in a second. But these are the absurd arguments that they made. Luke Hilgeman, Americans for Prosperity's national CEO, that's the Koch brothers political group, cast the South Dakota fight as a battle to protect donors' free speech rights. That's so funny. Now, I know that they got the Supreme Court to make a decision like that, which is insanity, which is deeply unpopular in the country. But they claim, hey, if I give you a stack of bills, I'm not bribing you. I'm talking to you. Who believes that? Okay. Jamie Raskin, who's now in the United States Congress, made a great argument about this in Congress. He said, well, then I guess prostitution is legal because you're not giving them money for sex. You're just talking to them. It's an absurd argument. Okay. And by the way, if you believe that argument, put the prostitution aside. Why can't you just bribe the politicians? Why can't you just give them a Cadillac? That's an old school reference. Okay, why can't you just buy them a jet? Just give them $1 million. You're not bribing them. That's your free speech rights. You're just talking to them. Now, who are they actually in reality? And why don't they want you to find out who they are? Well, the Koch network is one of the most influential groups in conservative politics. Some 700 like-minded donors each pledge to give at least $100,000 annually. Now, do you think they're doing that out of the goodness of their heart? Almost none of them live in South Dakota. So they're like, no, I have a business interest there, but that's not why I'm giving at least $100,000. No, I really care about deregulation, conservative principles, that's what it is. No, this is crony capitalism defined. That's why they don't want you to find out who they are. And Luke Hilgeman, again, the CEO of Koch brothers group, Americans for Prosperity, said that they spent so much money in South Dakota and they cared so much about it because, quote, if it can happen in South Dakota, it can happen in 10 or 20 other states. They don't want that to spread, okay? If you guys get up there and vote, no, don't do that, don't do that. Remember, bow your heads. Know who's in control. We're in control. Who are we? I'm not going to tell you. Well, luckily, the people of South Dakota did not listen to them. The ballot measure passed, and it was close because they spent a ton of money trying to trick people. But they won, in other words, Measure 22 won, 51.62 to 48.38, basically 52 to 48. So, hey, the Anti-Corruption Act worked, right? All right, fantastic. So it's now law in South Dakota. Good news. Wait, not quite so quick. Now, it's a ballot measure. It should be the law in South Dakota. There is no ands, ifs, or buts, except the legislature, bought by the Koch brothers, says, we don't agree. Well, who cares that you don't agree? They already passed the ballot measure. The voters of South Dakota spoke. Like, I don't think so. So they're going to take that Anti-Corruption Act, and they've decided that they're going to call for an emergency session. They say an emergency is hereby declared to exist. Why? Is there a twister going through South Dakota? Is there some natural disaster we're unaware in South Dakota? No, they called an emergency session to make sure that they could continue to be corrupt. I'm not kidding. It's amazing. So let me tell you what they plan to do. The repeal bill, which would repeal the ballot measure, guts all of the Act's provisions, including the creation of an independent ethics commission. Well, they're the ones who are corrupt. Why would they want an independent ethics commission? Limits on lobbyist gifts to politicians. Those gifts are going to them, of course. Emergency. Let's repeal this thing. Tougher penalties for bribery. They're the ones getting bribed. Why would they want that? Stronger transparency and a 2-year ban on politicians becoming lobbyists when they leave office. If you think that's bad enough, and it is, that is horrific, it gets worse. In its present form, the bill may actually legalize bribery from a misdemeanor to a felony, but the repeal proposal reduces it to a Class 5 misdemeanor, a category which does not exist in South Dakota law. You know what that means? That means that, oops, did we accidentally write bribery out of the law? Not only can you do the legal bribery, not only can you give me all the gifts, not only can you do it in the dark of night without anybody ever finding out, now we just happen to write a bill in an emergency that would allow you to bribe us so we could actually put it in our pocket. Oh, that would be a Class 5 misdemeanor. Oh, golly gee, that doesn't exist. Oops. The people of South Dakota, are you going to take this? You voted. You already made your voice clear. And your politicians are saying, no, I don't care what you say. I'm going to continue to be corrupt. I'm going to continue to take those lobbyist gifts. I'm going to continue to take those legalized form of bribery. I'm going to take the campaign contribution. And you're never going to find out who even bribed me. I'm never going to let you know. And I don't care about your stinking democracy. I don't care about America. I don't care about the Constitution. I'm in charge now. You made the mistake of voting me in. Well, I'm owned by the Koch brothers. So, sorry. The will of the voters they are declaring is irrelevant. This is what has happened to our democracy. The Anti-Corruption Act repeal would take effect immediately, and the voters would lose their right to pursue a veto referendum. That's the last part of this. They say that not only are we not listening to your ballot measure and the clear will of the voters, we won't even let you vote on again. But that was a mistake. Letting the people vote? No. Koch brothers, you're back in charge. You're going to take that in South Dakota? They're going to take your freedom away right in front of your eyes. And you're not going to fight back? Does it matter what your political affiliation is? Do you really think, oh, but it's the Koch brothers. I bet Soros, who, by the way, is just as rich as them, won't come in and buy the politicians tomorrow? Or even if you're on the Republican side, you think, no, I don't care about them representing my interests or my Republican or conservative ideology. Just let them work for the Koch brothers. I hope they have my best interest in mind. They're billionaires with a lot of business interests, but they probably won't care about that. They'll care about principles, right? They'll care to do the right thing. Good luck with that ideology. It is insane that we allow people to buy our politicians. Now, you know what my proposal is. It's wolf pack. It's to get money out of politics And the only way we do it is we do it in a way that they cannot reverse. What's the only thing in the country they cannot reverse under any circumstance? A constitutional amendment, an amendment to the United States Constitution that says, no, we're not privately financing elections anymore. We're not allowing legalized bribery anymore. End of this. No way, no how. wolf-pack.com. But I got to give credit here to Represent Us. They did a fantastic job for fighting for this bill in the first place. They're nonpartisan, and the guy who led the movement in South Dakota is a former Republican state official. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. This is the one thing we all agree on. We're so tired of the corruption. And now they're just rubbing your face in it. We are the watchers on the wall. We are the sword in the darkness. Come join us. tytnetwork.com/join.